We need a 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the full board meeting of the Ansonia Board of Aldermen. The Pledge of
I
Allegiance.
can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Can't
hear
hear
you, Joe.
you, Josh.
I'll be at dinner tonight. I got half an hour of this, and I'm done.
Can't hear me?
We mute everyone.
No, mute everybody.
No.
Can you mute the background? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I'd like to welcome you to the full Board of Aldermen meeting for April 8th, 2025. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be
What
led
is
by
this, like a silent auction?
Owen Alston from Mead School.
Yep.
Get it, Owen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yay.
Thank
Good
you.
Good
job.
job, Austin.
Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Owen.
Can't hear anybody.
Can we get a roll call?
Yes, aldermen and women. King,
Here.
Farrar,
Here.
Adamowski,
Yeah, now I am.
Tar?
Here.
Cassetti,
He's here, but I think he's having audio issues, Trish.
I agree. Janetti,
Here.
Nutt,
Here.
Hardy, Yelman,
Here.
Rivers,
Here.
Mamone,
Here, Trish.
Okay.
Stewart,
Here.
Levinsky,
Here.
Durante.
Okay.
Here.
12 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. I declare a quorum. Before we move on to in the agenda, I'd like to request to add one item to executive session. Johnny Brown versus City of Ansonia.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Mamone to accept and second by Tar. And all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll take that up later on in executive session. We have the minutes to consider from the previous meeting of March 11th, 2025.
Motion.
Motion by Rivers. Second by Yalman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Nope.
Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on now to public session. Before we start, I just want to go over our usual ground rules. Obviously open to anyone to address the Board of Aldermen. Please note, there's a public session at many public meetings, so hopefully your comments are relevant to our board, but we welcome anyone to speak. Please limit your comments or questions for us to 3 minutes if possible, because we have a lot of business, as you can see from the agenda. Limit of 1 time speaking per person, and we ask that you identify yourself, name and address for the public record, or for possible follow-up by city staff. So with that, I'll take any takers for speaking in public session. First hand I see, Ellen.
Yes, hi everyone. It's really nice to be here. Thank you so much. There's actually something interesting that came up. A woman from a group in Waterbury, I think, is going to join by phone, and she's going to talk about something relating to art and culture in this town and other towns in the valley. But I'm not going to talk about that. But I actually have 2 questions. Just private citizen questions. Number 1, I live at 153 Main Street, directly across from what I was told was going to be a coffee shop, but it doesn't really look like there's anything happening there. So I just wondered if there were any updates, because I'm really looking forward to the coffee shop. If it's coming, when is it coming? And then the other thing is just a question that I have about whether or not we have a noise ordinance in Ansonia. And I know that noise is a real problem everywhere, not just here, but living on Main Street, I'm beginning to dread the nice weather when there is just so much horrible noise coming from cars and loud engines I know you can't really control the radios, but you know, these, like these machine gun kind of engine sounds that you hear that are just so loud. I just wondered if there is any way of enforcing a noise ordinance. So that's just my question. And that's it for me. Thank you all.
Thank you. On the second one, there is a noise ordinance. I'm sure Chief Williams could probably refresh you on it, as well as Joe Yauman, who's our chair of ordinance, or maybe some of the aldermen. But there's definitely a noise ordinance. I don't know the details offhand. And as for the other question, I would say the staff might know something about that, city staff, regarding the coffee shop.
Back and forth, or just.
No, I don't know if you knew anything on that. No?
If there is a noise ordinance, it doesn't seem to be enforced.
Yeah, there's a noise ordinance and the police are in charge of enforcing the noise ordinance. It is only after a certain time of day. However, we can definitely work with the police department on trying to identify whether that's happening, you know, more often at a certain time in that area. This is an issue that's brought up before on Wakely Avenue. I think I hear a lot of talking in the background. I'm not sure where exactly that's coming from.
I think it's coming.
Another meeting.
But if you're in that meeting, if you can mute that.
From morning till night. It's just horrific, and it'll start, like I said, as soon as the really nice weather, motorcycles, all kinds of vehicles. There's somebody who's driving around already in like some kind of a three-wheeled thing with a very, very loud volume radio. So anyway, I'm just kind of pleading for noise.
So this is Main Street though, correct? So this is Main Street?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm on Main Street, and that is a common place for people to sort of, you know, drive up and down.
So I am going to ask for the chief to opine on this later tonight. However, I think that certainly this board can do a bit to look into that with the police to determine a good mechanism of enforcement. Obviously, there's a lot of new residents in the Main Street area. That's a great thing. We want to make sure the quality of life is as high as possible. So if there's anything that can be done, I was saying this was an issue up on Wakely Avenue, or aldermen really were looking into that. Alderman Yauman. Yep. In Rivers in particular, very concerned about many of the same issues. It is an issue ongoing, and unfortunately our police do have more limited resources and ability to be able to enforce certain violations, unfortunately, but we have a noise ordinance and there may be other things we can look into doing as a city. With respect to the coffee shop, we're talking about where the ice cream shop was, correct? Yeah. So I believe the private owners are looking still to be bringing that coffee shop in, and I will be reaching out and asking them for an update to see where they are right now with that use. But last we heard, we're on the same page as you. We were expecting the coffee shop as well and preparing for that.
Thank you so much.
Of course,
John, I'll just tag on, John, and I'll defer to the chief as well. But in terms of the noise ordinance, it is time limited, and there's also a sustained level of decibels that kind of is needed for enforcement, which makes it challenging.
To say the least. I realize that this is like a very big problem everywhere, and I don't really know if a car is passing by, you know, what you can do, but it does continue to get worse and worse. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
Follow up on it just to bring it around. This is Chief Williams, and I do agree with you, ma'am, that it's an issue. We don't necessarily use the noise ordinance for that. There are more motor vehicle laws that have just as many teeth as the noise ordinance, because those are not barred on time, etc. So loud mufflers. There are creating public disturbances. There are other crimes that and violations that we tend to use for those. I will tell you that I agree with you that as the nice weather comes on, they seem to come out more. Motorcycles a little bit more of a challenge, just because some of that is stock and some of that is not. But we do anticipate having to take action again. I haven't seen as much of it recently, but as you said, as the warm weather comes out, we'll start addressing them more often.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff. Jeff, do you still want to speak?
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
He's not muted.
Joe, he's not responding, so
Looks
can
like
we
he's trying
move
to
on, or let's,
We'll come
Looks
back.
like sign language.
shall we move on?
Sure, we'll go to the next. Kelly Zimmerman.
Can't hear you.
Good evening, board. Thank you very much for
Joe.
your acknowledgement. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hi.
perfect.
My name is Kelly Zimmerman, and I'm calling in from Waterbury. However, I'm calling in under the Arts and Cultural Collaborative of Greater Waterbury, which includes Ansonia. If you're familiar or not familiar with the Arts and Cultural Collaborative, they're a nonprofit local arts agency that's under the Greater Waterbury Chamber of Commerce. We work very closely with the Connecticut Arts Department, and we provide services such as marketing, advocacy for the arts and culture, and increasing awareness in our region's communities. So in our region, we have 15 towns and cities. We have Ansonia, Beacon Falls, Bethlehem, Cheshire, Derby, Middlebury, Naugatuck, Oxford, Prospect, Seymour, Southbury, Waterbury, Thomaston, Watertown, Woolkit, and Woodbury. I know that was a long list, but I figured I'd just give you the whole view. And what I've been tasked to do under the collaborative is have and host community conversations with residents, because art and culture really does contribute to your quality of life in your towns. And we feel it's very important to hear from the residents as to what do you like to do in your town? What do you feel is missing? And what would you like to see in the future? And my last key to this puzzle is a cluster with Ansonia, Derby, Seymour, and Oxford. And I come to you tonight to kind of share this information with you. I will be sending you an email inviting you. I'm hoping you can share this with your constituents. Right now, we have a date of April 28th from 6:30 to 7:30. However, I am looking for a central location to host the meeting where we can project and basically break people out into teams. We're expecting maybe 20, 25 people to be there. So right now I have a community representative from Ansonia who's also here. Ellen, thank you very much. So Ellen Trisselt, and I'm going to provide her phone number that she's agreed with, 203-770-4213. If you're interested, or if you can help us find a location, it would be greatly appreciated. And thank you for your time. I'm also an older woman in Waterbury, so I appreciate all that you do in your efforts to keep our towns and cities wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
evening.
for coming. Next.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, next, Jeff Bryce.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I was having audio issues or microphone issues. So Jeff Bryce, 4 La Rova Terrace, Ansonia, Connecticut, also the president of Ansonia Soccer Club, the youth soccer organization for Ansonia. I have a couple things to go over. Mostly, we had work done to Apestone Park, and we were off that field for 3 years. We moved everything to the nature center. We had almost 300 kids a season at the nature center. It was unsustainable, traffic-wise, people-wise, time-wise. We were hoping to get back on Apestone Park this spring. We went back there and had to cancel not just our first weekend opening day of soccer after not any rain that would have been substantial, but also had to cancel practices this week because of the amount of standing water on that field. The fields of the nature center are also in disarray. So we're going upwards of 300 kids per season playing soccer for the town of Ansonia with nowhere for them to play. As the town considers a $10 million referendum that most of the city fields seem to be giving little attention to as far as how that money is going to be being spent, I feel like this has become a travesty. I feel like this has become all about the Board of Ed and what they want for football. And I'm fine with the fact that we're going to spend more money on football than anybody, but to not spend any money on anybody else is ridiculous. It is not what this town should be about. This should be about community. This should be about equity. I'm disappointed in the way this whole thing went down. We had an opportunity to put money into the clubhouse, to have equity for our girls, to have a place for them to change, for them, if we're going to be moving that entire infrastructure down to Nolan, for there to be more. And instead we decided to appease people by putting an unnecessary additional turf field into that plan, and therefore not putting anything into the clubhouse that needs to be done, not putting anything into the bleachers, needing ADA bleachers. My father's handicapped and he still can't access the bleachers there at games. We need to start thinking about the entire community. The World Cup is coming to the US in 2026. That number of 300, it could double. Where would we put all those children? Where do we want to put the Ansonia residents that want to play a sport? That field needs to be double lined. That we need to put more money into the clubhouse. We need to do this fiscally responsibly. We need to stop trying to appease people and understand that we need to represent everybody when we spend this money. So please, let's consider something that is more fiscally responsible, provides more equity, and also addresses all the problems of the fields we have around town. As we have all these kids in soccer, all these kids at other fields, we're making them use porta pots. We're not even installing bathrooms with this money. It could have been better spent. I'm disappointed, and I hope we can come to a better resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Stay tuned. Next in the queue, I see Don Smith. Are you still here?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, excuse me, for the record, Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer with an office, excuse me, at 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour. Here tonight representing Munch Eatery, item number 3 under your new business. I don't know if you'd like me to speak now and answer any questions now, or stay tuned until that item comes up on your agenda, and then I'll be available for questions as well.
John, would you prefer we wait until the agenda item?
Might be better to wait simply because, not that we want Don to wait, but I think we want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask questions as you're considering the issue. And between now and then, you might not connect the dots, so to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you knew I was here and available for comment.
Thank you for being here, Don.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Don. Next hand I see are Lisi. Still here?
Right there.
Yes, Robert Lisi, 11 Lombardi Drive, Derby, Connecticut. Just wanted to comment on Mr. Bryce's comments. Some of those issues were discussed. Some of the things he discussed, he was not at the last meeting of the School Building Commission when a lot of these issues were brought up. And the presentations that were denied, many of the contractors with the committee that he was on and he was part of. So they only allowed one company to make a presentation, and they were asked why only one. We were not given an answer, but some of those issues that one of the presenters made the other night, again, the meeting that Jeff Bryce did not attend, those issues were discussed. The bleachers were discussed. What he fails to mention is that Title IX is a huge component of the project, which the presentation made by Field Turf is available now. We have girls tennis, girls softball, girls soccer, and they had no place to change. But he certainly failed to recognize that. But it is a good proposal before. I know it's in executive session. Field Turf, everyone had an opportunity to put in alternate bid. They did not. You can ask those companies why they didn't. They didn't. So the only thing I want to tell you is that I did attend all those meetings. Attended the meeting last week where they were made to. They were at least presented Field Turf, and they were denied any way to give a presentation prior to last week. I don't know why the committee that was put together didn't allow it, but they did. One last thing. The soccer, I know they have a lot of kids and that's great, but they are using 2 of the Board of Education facilities. And there was money put into Apestone Park. There was at least, and we asked that question last week. There was at least, there was a lot of money put into it. Those fields are not in use. So the city needs to recognize that there was a lot of money put into Apestone Park. Thank you.
Can you mute these? Looks like Michael is on talking. Okay, thank you. Next, Lisa Glazer.
I have no idea.
Would you like to speak? All right, we'll go to the next.
No,
one.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Lisa Glazer, 56 Howinsky Way. I played sports in Ansonia, my brothers, our kid. I'm all for making the fields better. I really am. But it almost seems to me with an 11% mill rate increase in this proposed budget that we're installing a playground when our house is on fire. It makes no sense to me that we're even considering doing this when we had to sell a public utility last year in order to be able to stay afloat, I guess. And I have really 2 questions that I'd like to see the answer to. And I'd like to know, was it $40 million we sold it for? And if that's the case, where did that money go so quickly? And my other question is, what is our rainy day balance fund right now? What is the balance as of today's date? I would really like, and I think we all deserve to be able to get those answers. And I think everybody needs to understand that according to what's going on in this budget, we are not in a financially good place in our town. And if we don't do anything, we're gonna end up getting taken over by the state. And that's a scary proposition. I own my house here. I chose to come back here and raise my son. And even after he left, I chose to stay. I want to make it a better place. But this particular situation has just got me baffled. How we could even think about spending this kind of money when we're going to ask everybody to increase their taxes substantially. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak tonight?
Pat Bummels.
Pat Bummels.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Josh and everyone. We appreciate having this opportunity. This is Sue Toth and myself, and we are representing the National Day of Prayer team in Ansonia. And we've been doing this on a yearly basis. I'm not sure how many people realize it, but the National Day of Prayer is a law on the books in Washington, D.C. And so we are representing it. And we will be having an event right next door to you, right there at the Veterans Memorial Park. And it will be on May 1st. It is always the first Thursday in May. It was amended that way since 1988 by President Reagan. And anyway, so every year we do it. And this year we just wanted to invite everyone and the public. And our theme is something that is going to give encouragement to everyone. And it says, pour out to the God of hope and be filled. And it is the 74th annual National Day of Prayer. And so we are extending an invitation to all of you, and we hope that you will join us. Okay, for a hope-filled evening. So thank you for your time, and know that we are praying for all of our legislators. We pray for the education and for the military, the government. There's the 7 centers of power that are always lifted up. So that's it. Thank you so much. We hope you come.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
God bless.
Any other speakers from the public?
Josh,
Uh,
it's Ann Lynch. I would like to talk.
Sure. Address, please.
What was that, Josh?
Just your address, please.
Okay. Ann Lynch, 15 Birchwood Drive.
Thank you.
Good evening. There are two things I would like to mention this evening. First, over the weekend, pictures were posted of the soccer fields at Abe Stone Park. What an absolute disgrace. I know that Burns Construction did the work on these fields about a year ago. I have no idea why we would have a company who specializes in paving and resurfacing projects do work on a grass field. I certainly hope someone has contacted them about the condition of these fields. I would like to know who approved Burns Construction to do this work, and was this approved from the Board of Aldermen? Also, where did the funds come from to pay for this project? Second, I noticed on the agenda that the Board of Aldermen is going into executive session this evening to talk about negotiations about a regional agreement with Shelton Development Corporation for economic development. I certainly hope the Board of Aldermen comes out of executive session and explains to the citizens of Ansonia what this is all about. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else from the public who wishes to address the board tonight?
My name's Paul Rodriguez. I'd like to speak.
Go
Paul
ahead.
Rodriguez, 2 Elm Street. I'm owner's rep for Freddie Lala, the development, the old police station. I just want to bring to your attention, it's getting to be an urgent matter. We're trying to develop this property for almost 2 years now. I know you guys are going to go back and get an appraisal done. I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, but we'd like to get to a resolution. I'm not sure if this property is on the agenda tonight, but we're looking to do 55 or older residences, 17 units and commercial. And we've been paying taxes 2 years and we haven't gotten any headway on the project. So we'd like to stop wasting money and putting our money towards making that property better. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public who wish to address the board? Thomas Egan, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Thomas Egan, 253 Main Street, Ansonia, Connecticut. I'm a resident here, I'm a taxpayer here, and frankly, I'm someone who's deeply invested into the future of Ansonia. Taking a few hours of my day today just to review this proposed budget. Thankfully, it's online now. There's some red flags that I've seen that it does not look like this is going to be a sustainable financial plan for the city. I think it's an election year illusion built on risky assumptions and one-time gimmicks and frankly taxpayer sacrifices. This budget, it's relying on this, again, this year, $5 million in use of future revenue. To me, sounds like it's a polite way of saying we're draining the city's savings to plug the holes. That money won't be there next year. So what happens then? Are we going for higher taxes, emergency cuts, hope for a miracle? And I don't have a good answer for that. But as we keep kicking this can down the road, when it finally stops, it's going to land in the taxpayer's lap. And it's going to hurt the people of Ansonia. So what I've looked at, and some things that I'm concerned about right now is these fuel cells and these solar projects. They're very, I think they're overprojected. I think they're going to not bring in as much. And I think it would be a better idea if we took a more conservative approach to how much they're coming in with. I don't know if the revenues there are going to be guaranteed for the city. And I don't want to see the residents getting pinched. Property taxes are still going up, mill rates going up. It's going to be a real cost to the homeowners, the families, and the seniors on fixed incomes. I don't know how I got designated, but frankly, I've been getting so many calls today about this. I can't keep up. It's about 25, 26. I can't keep up with this. And I don't know why people are calling me. I don't want to tear everything down though. I'm just here to just tell the truth on what I think. The preamble of this 25-page document that was put out, it violates its own spirit, its own financial guidelines, and it's putting Ansonia into a path of structural deficits. There's no long-term plan to rebuild our reserves or protect taxpayers for future instability. You all are going to go look at this budget or the summary of this budget. There's some line items I think that could be cut, but I'll leave that all to you. At the end of the day, we got to bring jobs back to this town. I think was bringing some good paying jobs, any sort. There's talk about putting in a data center. There's talk about putting in the seniors over here from Mr. Lalage project. We got to bring that back to the town to help stabilize the tax base so that people can afford to live here. It's hard. So whatever you all can do, you've got a Herculean task. And I'll give you credit for trying to tackle this problem, but it's big. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wants to address the board tonight? Anyone from the public? Last call, public. Seeing none, we'll close the public session, move on to public official session. Mayor Cassetti, you still there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
You hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Board of Aldermen, department heads, residents of the great city of Ansonia. I want to start tonight, not with numbers, but with a celebration, a moment of real progress in our city. Earlier today, we broke ground on the new Ansonia Animal Shelter. And I have to tell you, it wasn't just the weather that made it a beautiful day. It was the feeling that once again, our community had come together to do something meaningful. This is a project that speaks to who we are, who our city is that cares, who cares about animals. We care about our quality of life, and we care about doing things the right way. Thanks to the willingness of our residents to support a $1 million in bonding, we are making this project a reality. That's no small thing. In a time when every dollar counts, our residents voted with their hearts and with their wallets. And they said yes to something better. Special thanks go to Jeannie Razanowski, our dedicated animal control officer, who brought her knowledge and compassion to the design of this shelter. Jeannie, your input helped shape a facility that will not only serve our animals, but will serve our residents with pride for years to come. I also want to thank Chief Williams, Tim Holman, and everyone involved. I also want to recognize some of the folks who chipped in to help make a good project even better. John Geddes of the Ansonia Soccer Complex and the state delegation. Your contributions, financial or otherwise, are the kind of partnership that moves Ansonia forward. So thank you. Now from the warmth of the groundbreaking to the heat of the budget season. And I don't need to tell you, this crowd, that things are starting to cook. We are nearing the finalization of the city budget, and I won't sugarcoat it. This is, without a doubt, the most challenging budget we have faced in the last 12 years. On the city side, we are proposing a modest 1.8% spending increase. That's well below the 3% of inflation rate. That's lean. That's discipline. But on the Board of Education side, the increase is north of 5.28%. That's significant. And together, these increases, if approved in full, will require a mill rate jump of 2.65 mills from 26.49 to 29.62. Let me say that again. 29.62. Now I know I know what you're thinking. Mayor, 29.62. We haven't raised the mill rate by more than a half a mil since you first took office in 2013. Yes, it is, and we're going to talk about it. But let me put the numbers in context. Let's take a quick field trip around Connecticut, shall we? Derby, 43 mils. Naugatuck, 44.75 mils. Woodbridge, 46.43 mils. West Haven, 36.57 mils. Stratford, 40.20 mils. And good old Hamden, 56 mils. Compared to the 2962, as frustrating as it is, well, for many in Connecticut, it's a lot worse. We spent the last 12 years doing everything in our power to keep taxes low. We've reined in spending. We trimmed the fat. We've modernized services and improved efficiency. And we didn't do it for headlines. We did it for the people of Ansonia. And guess what? It worked. Well, we've kept our mill rate among the lowest in the region while still maintaining a healthy, listen up, a healthy $9 million rainy day fund. That's not luck. That's leadership. That's partnership between this board and this administration. But now we face a turning point. Costs are rising. State aid is stagnant. And the state continues to shift more and more of the burden onto the municipalities like ours, because we have no representation up in Hartford. So the question we must answer is this: how do we protect the progress we've made while remaining true to the principles that got us here? Here's my answer. We don't give up. We don't throw in the towel. We double down on our values. We focus on needs, not wants. We embrace austerity where we must, and we invest where we have no choice. We don't build flashy projects for show. We build facilities to serve our people, like our new animal shelter. We don't fund every request. We fund what's essential. And yes, if this budget process leads us to a tax increase, and I pray that it does not, then I say this: let the people decide. That's why this administration pushed for the law that gives the people of Ansonia the final say on their budget through referendum. For the first time in Ansonia's history, you, the voters, will have the power to approve or reject your city's budget if it exceeds a threshold of 3% increase in net taxes collected. That's not just transparency, that's trust. And I trust the people of this city to do what they've always done: stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. So I am asking each of you, members of this board, to approach this final phase of the budget process with discipline, vision, and respect for the taxpayer. We can't tax our way into prosperity, but we also can't slash our way into a better future. This is about balance. And to those who say Ansonia, a small distressed municipality, has no business keeping taxes this low, I say this: we have every right to fight for our taxpayers, every right to prove that smart budgeting and responsible leadership can work, even here, especially here. My staff will be in touch with all of you shortly regarding key dates, public hearings, and the potential timeline for the referendum. I want to thank you, God bless you, and God bless the city of Ansonia.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to cut you off because you went way over your 3 minutes. Next up, Corporation Counsel, John Marini.
Mr. President, members of the board, following off of what Mayor Cassetti said, obviously the budget is now with the aldermen, and this board's going to have the opportunity to review it, to do its due diligence and to find cuts and savings where possible. Now, at the end of the day, Mayor did give the specifics here. We're at a 1.8 increase on the city side, and we're at a little above a 5% increase on the Board of Ed side. About half of that 5%, it's about $2 million altogether, is coming from increases in the cost of special education, one way or the other, right? Whether it's the transportation related to it or other costs. And this, as articulated very clearly by our school system, is because we are not getting the state aid that Ansonia should properly be entitled to. Okay, so we're in a challenging situation because of this. It is about a $3 million increase projected right now. However, I should also point out, and Kurt will follow up here, there is a little silver lining in that there is a decrease in the mill rate for motor vehicles. So motor vehicle mill rate is coming down from about 32 under this proposal to 29. And that property mill rate is coming up from 26 to 29. So depending on your situation, if you're a property owner with vehicles, some of your increase will be offset, of course, by the reduction in your car's taxes, right? Your motor vehicle taxes. If you are a renter and you do not own property, you will be seeing a net reduction in taxes because your car taxes will go down. Of course, how your landlords will make up for their increase, whether they will pass it on or not, of course, is going to be up to landlords. So there is a big picture to look at, but at the end of the day, net taxes to be collected is at 9%. So there's some confusion of that, I think, in the coverage and in discussions in social circles and social media. But the net taxes to be collected, it's about 9% of an increase right now. And the threshold for our referendum, Mayor referred to, that law that was put in some 12 years ago, the threshold is 3% and above needs to go to the voters. So certainly right now, this is on its way to referendum. And I want to take this moment to propose the first thoughts on a referendum schedule. And I've been speaking with our registrars of voters, David Papson and John Fettern, and we're looking at a potential schedule that would start on April 21st, a Monday, with a public hearing on the budget, as always, and a meeting of the Board of Aldermen to do a final discussion of that budget before sending it off to referendum if needed. Of course, if cuts are somehow made to bring it under 3% net taxes to be collected, that referendum wouldn't be necessary. But if it's 3% or over, the Board of Aldermen would be choosing to send it to referendum that night. And the referendum itself would be the following Friday, April 25th. So you can mark those two dates as those two dates are very likely to be what we're going with. April, and of course, if this board agrees, April 21st, the Monday for the public hearing and Board of Aldermen meeting, and April 25th, all day at the Ansonia Armory for the actual voting, for the referendum. We've discussed the city's desire to have absentee balloting available for this, as usual. And basically, they're trying to work with the clerk's office to solve any challenges that would prevent that. But it is our intention to provide absentee balloting up to that election. Obviously, there's no early voting. It's going to be a one-day referendum, again, at the Ansonia Armory, which we believe is a convenient and central place for the voting to take place. Now, of course, voters, when they come in, they're going to be able to vote on the city side budget and the Board of Ed budget. They're going to be able to vote yes or no, too high or too low on each of them. If both budgets are approved, we have a new city budget. If neither are approved, we're going to need to go back to the drawing board. If one is approved and the other is rejected, we'll need to go back to the drawing board for the portion that is rejected. And in terms of how we would handle that, we're proposing that we do every other week. So let's say the April 21st meeting takes place, April 25th vote takes place, the budgets don't pass, or one of them doesn't pass. Then a week later, we would do the same process, right? So skip a week, and then the next Monday would be another public hearing, another Board of Aldermen meeting, and then the next Friday, another budget vote in the Armory. We have started to put these potential dates on the calendar as of course transparency and getting the message out is going to be very big. So the residents have not only the ability to voice their opinion at the meeting, but also of course get on their calendar when those votes may be. Kurt's going to speak about more of these details, but again, to the confusion, this isn't an 11% increase on the taxes you are paying. That's a bit misleading. That was actually a percentage of the mill rate going up, but that doesn't actually tell you much about anything other than what percentage the mill rate is going up. When it comes to what taxes you are actually paying as a result of this budget, you need to look at how the mill rate is applied, how the property mill rate and the motor vehicle mill rate is applied. You have to take a look at the value of your home. Is that this is going to mean different things for different people. I believe the Valley Independent Sentinel did put out some samples of different value ranges for different homes, what they would see. But again, that also has to be offset by the motor vehicle situation that you have. I should say, again, as the mayor did, as it was a question asked in public session, what is the situation with the fund balance? It's over 9 million. So you have a very healthy fund balance right now. And in terms of the tax rate, obviously I could speak for the administration. When I say, we're frustrated, it's obviously been 12 years and there hasn't been any sort of significant tax increase, right? Taxes have been essentially stable, especially if you looked at the rate of inflation. But at the same time, we do have conditions where some speakers said, it needs to be sustainable, right? And then as the mayor said, we need to make sure we're not abandoning the progress that we're creating. And that, of course, in terms of progress, it means our Board of Education and our school system. And we do understand that, again, 50% of the increase, we're looking at special ed costs that the state, for some reason, will not step in and help with. What's interesting is that, the state has a very big priority, certainly, on housing in Ansonia and the rest of Connecticut. They have a very big, very vocal concern about increasing the housing stock in the state of Connecticut, bringing people into the state. Ansonia has been a destination for so many of these new residents because they find Ansonia to be affordable, right? That's the perception of Ansonia, is it is affordable. People are moving not only from out of state to Ansonia, from New York, many to Ansonia, but we also see from Fairfield County and other areas, because we have achieved a reputation as having a great balance of quality of life and being affordable. And yet that is causing challenges now, especially when it comes to the school system, in particular, the special education, right? And these mandates make it very, very costly. And yet the state is not stepping in to help when their policies are putting us in this position. So it's a challenge that we're going to have to meet together, but we also do need those, hopefully those residents who are very frustrated to make sure that they're calling the state and they're holding the state accountable for their share in this and the burdens they're shifting onto towns and cities in many, many, many different ways. And that's the update on the budget. Kurt's going to speak a little more to that. And let me end it though by saying we also need this board's help in another way as well. We have a project on Franklin Street. As you know, that road has been in awful condition for some time. This is a state project and a state road. The state plans to move ahead repaving in 2026, which we believe is absolutely unacceptable. And we need this board's help to calling the state to the table to be accountable and getting this road fixed. We also have issues with State Street, as you know, and we've been subject to changes the DOT has been making in that design, in the design of the restoration with State Street, which has delayed the project and caused it again to be in terrible, terrible shape. We need the state to start paying attention to Ansonia. This is one of the big reasons why we've always talked about regionalization. The idea that the Valley as a region could carry more weight and stand up for ourselves. We believe that we need to make noise. We can't be forgotten about in this situation when it comes to the state. They are sitting on surplus funds from back to COVID. They are not coming forward to help in a way that they need to. We need this board to help raise some noise in terms of getting Ansonia fair treatment from the state of Connecticut with respect to those issues. Are there any questions?
Questions for John?
Yeah, I got a question, John. It's Tony. So you had mentioned for the referendum, the vote would be split for city side, Board of Ed side. And just to clarify or to reiterate, if one portion of that is approved, such as the city side and the Board of Ed does not, the city side is considered finalized at that point, and that becomes the finalized budget for the city. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then the Board of Ed, hypothetically, or even if the city side, whichever side is rejected, would come back to this board for further work to put back out to referendum, based on commentary from the public to find a sustainable budget moving forward. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. That was all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep, that's an important point of clarification because, of course, it's the first time the Ansonia has ever gone through this process. Our neighbors in Seymour do it every year. It's the first time ever in Ansonia. So I would imagine a lot of questions will be asked, and we're going to be doing our due diligence to get out there on social media, to get out there on calls, letting people know when these dates are and how the process is going to work. As the more people that participate, the more informed this vote's going to be in terms of what the will of the people is. And that's why this law was written. I'm proud to say I played a part in putting this onto the books in Ansonia. People deserve a say and to be part of the solution. And with respect to solutions, comments were also made about, hey, revenue, to be sustainable, we need revenue. Absolutely. Absolutely. The mayor's office could not agree more. I know that members of this board could not agree more. What Ansonia does have, and right now we see, right, the reality of rising costs. We see the possibility of taxes ticking up. We can take solace in the fact that, by a standard of other communities, you are in a very strong position. But at the same time, you also have this. You have 60 acres of Ansonia copper and brass, and therefore the potential to generate revenue. And all this talk about the data centers and the fuel cell, this is all geared around how can we bring revenue into the city of Ansonia? What are these businesses going to be able to pay and to put those funds back into the roads, the school systems, to alleviate the burden on the taxpayers? That asset, that 60 acres, is the key here. And in the meantime, obviously we've all been committed to keeping taxes as low as possible. In the meantime, I believe the number shows when you just take a look around at other communities, hard pressed to find a distressed community that has the same results. And of course, the progress that you're having from the projects that this board and the residents have pushed along. So all I could say is thank you. It's a challenging year. But what this year would have looked like without the efforts of both this board and the trust of the residents, you'd be in the 30s, in the 40s in terms of the mill rate. You'll just look around to comparable communities and you see it. And the real question is, how could you be this low?
Thank you.
Hey, John, I have another comment. I think equally important, not only is, the 60 acres of copper and brass and, the incoming revenue, but also the state's responsibility to the Board of Education in general. We've been shortchanged millions for years. We get pennies on a dollar and, we celebrate that, but we can't lose track that the state still continues to shortchange the Ansonia education system millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Right. That's also
It's something
equally
that
important that we
doesn't
need.
tend to get coverage. It doesn't get talked about. In fact, hey, are there federal factors involved with special ed requirements as well? Of course. But you have to understand, if the reporting is fair, that, right, let's be honest, wealthy districts have consistently gotten more than their fair share, right? So we're talking about very affluent communities out in Fairfield County, say towns like Greenwich, that are getting funding when they perhaps don't need it, right? They're getting luxury items, they're getting pathways to schools, they're getting projects that are luxury projects. They're getting more than their allocation through the formula for education cost sharing. But here in Ansonia, not only have we not been getting our full share, but they fundamentally changed the way the funding is delivered. And this seems to be something that the media will not touch. And I don't know
no representation in our.
I honestly don't know why this can't be covered. But basically, you had a type of funding where funding flowed directly to the town each year. Our city could take that funding and deliver it to the Board of Ed every year, and they could use that money every year, more money every year, to increase their operating budget. Because when they got that money, the minimum budget requirement would increase, and we would be bound to that new watermark every year. And so the Board of Ed could hire new teachers without the fear that the money was going to be pulled away. In a very interesting move, and I would say a disingenuous move, they changed it so the money would go directly to the Board of Ed, but not increase the minimum budget requirement. And also, the money would be delivered with strings, so the state would actually have to approve what the Board of Ed was spending that money on. It's an end run around the actual rules that cities have to play by. And what it has resulted in is less money that goes where it needs to go. And again, a topic that for some reason no one will touch. Allow the money to flow back to the city the way it used to be, so that our increases every year can be passed on to the Board of Ed and their operating budgets can be increased. Or you have to accept that they're going to lock us into a system that no one can afford, that no city or town in our position can possibly afford. Okay? That's all I have to say tonight, at least.
All right. Any other questions for John?
Just one, Josh, really quick, more procedural than anything else, John. When you were talking about going from public hearing to referendum, you were talking about doing a public hearing on a Monday, referendums being on a Friday, but you also mentioned absentee ballots. So I was just wondering how, I know it's probably still in the works and I don't know if we have a definitive answer, but in terms of any ABs, does that mean that they would be available the Tuesday after the public hearing and available until sort of the Thursday? How is that process going to
So
play out?
I'm not, all I know is the registrars believe that although it's a challenge, they can see a way to make this work. The biggest challenge is, of course, that you never really know what needs to be on these ballots until the night of the vote, right? So we can try all we want to project the prior week. There could be workshops and meetings the prior week, but anything could happen that Monday night. And so the challenge is, of course, getting a ballot printed in time that actually has the correct information. So registrars will be updating us on the overall plan by the first Board of Aldermen meeting on the budget. And again, we'd like the absentee ballots to be into effect, but it's just a matter of feasibility. Is it possible? But again, they had some faith that it was.
Okay.
It would have to be a quick turnaround though from that Monday night to getting the ballot printed.
Thank you.
Other questions? We can have John go all night if we want. Other questions for John?
Great job, John.
All right.
Great job, guys.
You're off the hook for now. We'll move on to Director of Economic Development, Sheila O'Malley.
Let's vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Aldermen, residents of the great city of Ansonia. That's a tough act to follow, but I've got a few things I want to talk about. Not only does our low mill rate distinguish us from other communities in the surrounding area, but we have, I dare say, more projects and grant money than most communities around us. And we've got more going on than most communities around us, which makes for a very busy city, but a very will be very productive for our residents. Mayor spoke about the groundbreaking at the animal shelter today, which is an exciting project. We're eagerly awaiting that project. You have SHW Building 12, the demolition, a retaining wall going in, an access road, and site pads. And not to, add on to what we want to talk about with regard to the state, but, when you take grant money, you take on the responsibility of jumping through hoops. So every step needs to be approved. And of course, that lengthens the time for our projects. Grateful for the money, but lots of hoops to jump through. Ansonia Copper and Bridge, we finally received the okay to go forward with the final design of that project. Working with our engineers on having that project ready to go for construction. The Riverwalk is being designed, and of course, we have now have the construction money for our next phase of the Riverwalk. We have Olson Drive, where you're hopefully going to see the turf being laid out. You have Gaddison Park, the remainder of that project, with the playground equipment, and it's the second phase. Nolan Field and the rec fields, other rec fields throughout the city are going to get underway thanks to the referendum. Sidewalks and street money additionally will be underway. Work for those projects will be underway. John talked about Franklin. We despite some discouraging news from the state, we are continuing forward and are in the process of making 2 applications for funding for full road reconstruction and sidewalks. And I feel confident we will get that funding regardless. And I believe the gas company, but the mayor knows more about it, is going to be paving a large portion of Franklin, so that in the meantime, before any major road improvements take place. We have we spoke with Farrell Pamini this last week, and they are looking to expand. They need more room, they need more equipment, and of course, along with that comes more jobs. When they first relocated up on the hill, they had 85 jobs. They now have over 100 new jobs, 100 jobs in advanced technology, and they're looking to expand not only their facility, but again, some of the equipment that they make. The bid went out for SHW for the redevelopment of lots 2 and 3, which will be due back, I believe, on the 25th. Sorry, I have to check that date. Don't quote me on that. So a lot going on. And again, you know, not to put any other community down, but more projects and grants in this city than surrounding communities. So really, you should all be really proud of that, and the mayor as well. So thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Questions from the Aldermen?
Just a comment, you know, Sheila, you know, I think we say it a lot of times, and I don't know if we could say it enough, but you know, your ability to get the grants coming in is pretty much unmatched. And I think, you know, I'll speak for myself and maybe for the city. Thank you for all you do for us.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Alderman Mamone.
Sheila, you did not mention the State Street.
I have it on my, I actually have it on my list.
of
Yeah.
potential projects. Can you give us an update on that? We've had several people asking when the project might be initiated.
Yep. So we met with an engineering firm who's the required third-party reviewer. So it's reviewed by the COG, it's reviewed by DOT, and they have an independent, required independent third-party reviewer. They said that they can turn around comments to us within a couple of weeks, and whatever corrections need to be made, our engineers at VHB are prepared to make those changes, because we don't want to, I told the COG and the third-party reviewer, we don't want to miss the season, so we can hopefully begin in this good weather. So look, I will update you further once we get the comments back from the third-party reviewers. It's been a process.
Okay, so we are looking at this summer.
We are.
Okay.
Summer, fall, yes.
You'll be more specific after the third-party review comes in.
Yes, I will get you a proposed date.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Anything else?
Is summer, fall a new season?
Summer, fall, yes.
Just
That's what I
asking.
call.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
2 weeks, Tony.
Yeah.
I got you, Sheila.
All right.
Thanks.
I have a question for you.
Oh, Alderman Rivers.
Okay, so do you think that Franklin will be summer, fall?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we secure the funding. I think you'll see the rest of the street paved because the gas company's gonna go over how they tore it up, right? So the street will be at least, it's in awful condition now, so it at least will be smoother like the upper portion of Franklin in the meantime. And then I can update you on the grant funds.
And just to piggyback on top of what Chicago was asking,
Yes,
Sheila,
sir.
in terms of what John had mentioned and about waiting until 2026, what is it that we can do to light a fire with the state? Because I mean, the project went over obviously, and a lot of stuff got done over there last day when it was supposed to be done. Last May, and then it was done last October. And the street is still in that same condition, and you applying for grants is great, and the gas company doing its portion is great, but when is that street actually going to be on the state's radar? And when are we actually going to be able to go forward with some of the things that we had previously talked about, like the sidewalks?
Right, all good questions. The mayor has been emailing them. I have been CC'd on those emails, and they did, at one point, the state got back to us and said, we have it slated for 2026, to which, we replied unacceptable. And that, we can't wait that long. So I would imagine, we can certainly do a resolution and a letter, but we want to hear from people like, how could you possibly leave the street like this?
Yeah, you can't finish a project at the end of 2024 and then not repave it until sometime during the summer of 2026. That's just completely unacceptable.
Well, I think the whole street should have been paved, not just the section they were working on, right? That's been the issue with our correspondence. So I don't want to go too far because they do award us our grant applications. So I
will defer to you, Sheila, but if you need a resolution, I'm happy to be a sponsor of it at some point in time in the future, whatever we need to do to get that project going. And I'm sure Steve feels the same way about State Street.
Yep.
Sheila.
Yes.
I will second that resolution, Joe, or even sponsor it myself. So
Sheila, I just want to let you know that I met with the gas company.
Yeah.
I wanted to mill that a section of Franklin Street where the gas company worked, but the problem is the full depth of asphalt was not there. That was a temporary patch of 2 inches of asphalt. So I had them hire their contractor to put down 9 inches of asphalt. As everybody should know, that is a state road from, I believe, Riverside Drive up to Wakely Avenue. That is a state road. Now, I had them put in the full depth of asphalt, and I am meeting with the Naugatuck Council of Governments and Rick Dunn to discuss how we can get some lots of money. That we are going to revamp the sidewalks, curbing, and possibly lighting.
Mayor, is the gas company going to pave over?
No, the gas company dug a 2-foot wide trench. What I told them to do, a full width of a paving box, I want 9 inches of asphalt put back in that road because that's a state road. The state spec is 9 inches. So that's what I guess their contractor did the last week or so. And that's it. If you go into gutter lines, both gutter lines of Franklin Street, they did not dig there. That's just that road has been beat up for years. So they're not going to fix that because they didn't cause any damage there. All they did was the work where they installed the new gas main and new services to the people's houses. That's where they put the 9 inches at. And
I think we're all in agreement. Mayor. That whole road needs to be done.
Oh, absolutely. I've been talking about it for 5 years. And that's the reason why, if you notice all around town, I know people are complaining.
Yep.
about
Yep.
all the excavation that's going on. Asphalt plants have just opened. They've been closed for 4 months. So we don't have hot asphalt. We have it now. And I instructed the gas company and to get their contractor to start permanently paving, whether it's North Main, whether it's State Street, whether it's Fort Street, whether it's Howard Avenue. Howard Avenue is a new gas main. We're revamping all the old cast iron gas mains throughout the area because they're old, and I don't want to have a catastrophe on our hands of exploding gas mains. So we're putting in new gas mains. All these roads will be milled and paved at the end. That's what they're going to do. Even if they compensate us for half the road for milling and paving, we could have our contractor do it at a much cheaper price. Now, if you look what I've done in the past, I negotiate with the asphalt companies. Our state bid price for asphalt is about $85 a ton to purchase. I'm able to get it a lot cheaper because I got what's called bulk. That's why I'm doing 15 and 20 roads a year. It's all in a plan that I have drawn out, and that's what I'm doing with all these roads. I will go to the gas company. I've already talked to them, Juan, and about getting compensated for after they do the permanent paving. You got to understand there's 2 cycles here. You install your main, and you put in a 2-inch temporary patch because you got to allow settlement. And then after it's settled, after 2-3 months, because you can't dig it up, you dig it out 4 or 5 inches on city roads, install the permanent patch, then you mill over the top of it so that you got a thick road. This is what I've required, but all the utility companies, the gas company and the water company.
No, I think we trust in that process, Mayor. I think it's just if the state is trying to drag Franklin out, another year and a half.
I'm not going to let them do that. No, I've been
and this board shouldn't either. So if we need,
Tony.
Yeah, if there's
Absolutely.
any, like Joe said, if we could champion a resolution in some way, we'd be happy to do that.
I think
Appreciate it, Mayor.
that's the way we could do it, and Sheila could present it to the state DOT, and we could go from there.
All right, thanks, Mayor.
But I
Thanks,
want
Joe.
sidewalks and curbs. I want new curbing and new sidewalk put in.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, move on to the guy with the fancy new police patch. Police Chief Wayne Williams.
Good evening, President Schumer, Mayor Cassetti, Board of Aldermen. A quick person, I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. You have a lot in your agenda. We have 5 officers in the academy, 1 officer in field training. We also have 5 open police officer positions. One of those is a sergeant that we are not filling right away due to manpower issues. We have a dispatcher opening, and we are starting a background on some candidates in that. We are also taking applications for police officers. So if you know anybody, please ask them to call us, and we'll work with them on the process. We also hired a part-time records clerk who starts on Monday. And lastly, on personnel, Officer Joshua Rodriguez was promoted this week to the position of sergeant, and he has begun his training. I want to offer my congratulations, Sergeant Rodriguez.
I'm going to keep sergeant.
Yes. Police accreditation, we're working on tier 2. We're also working on the replacement of our K9 unit for the department. That selection process has concluded. I expect to make the selection in the next week or so. As you noted, we began transitioning to the new shoulder patch for the department. You'll see several officers are already wearing them, and we expect the full changeover in the next several months. I want to thank Officer Kelly, Officer Semeraro, and Officer Nieves on the outstanding video that was created along with Officer Kelly and Dispatcher Whitlock for the design of the new patch. It was very well done. All of that was done in-house. You might have also noticed Officer Peter Laverme was featured by the New Haven Register this month. You may remember his father was an Ansonia police officer as well and retired after a long career. So congratulations, Officer Verme, on that spotlight in the New Haven Register. Lieutenant Barrera, Sergeant Nelson, Officer Perez will be participating in the Police Unity Tour next month. It's a 300-mile bicycle ride to Washington, D.C. to support law enforcement officers who have died in the line of duty. Some citywide things. Winter parking has ended as of March 31st. You may have been seeing more officers out on the street recently. We have begun the distracted driving campaign in conjunction with Connecticut DOT and NHTSA. Extra officers are being assigned to different areas to target drivers on their cell phones. Since last week, we started on Monday last week. Officers have stopped over 130 vehicles in violation. This is a grant that was applied for that we were granted last month. It covers 100% of the cost of the officers participating in the grant, up to roughly $24,000. Lastly, May 1st is our scheduled date of our award ceremony that was dormant for a couple of years. All of you are invited to attend. It'll be at the Ansonia High School on May 1st at 7 p.m. More information will follow. I'll send an email out. I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Chief, how you doing?
I'm good, Alderman Rivers. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I have a question. When will that gate go back up? Because while I was away, I got a call while I was out of the country that there was a car up there that was doing some donuts.
Okay. I might have to, Sheila, are you aware of when that's going back up? It was taken down as part of the new UI project, because they had to get their material and they had to get their work vehicles in there. On the left gate was taken down. Do we have any information from UI?
Yeah, they did. They just updated us, but I don't have any specifics about that. I thought they were wrapping up the project this week, so let me find out for you, Alderman Rivers and Chief.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I know the city didn't take that down. I know that their people took it down, so that's why I don't have an answer for you, Alderman.
I kind of figured that they took it down because that pole was real close to it. So
yeah, when they were putting up the pole and taking down the other contraption, they had to move that. So I would assume they'll put it back as it was.
I'll let them know tonight, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, as always. Next up, we'll go to Superintendent of Schools, Dr. DeBacco.
Good evening, President Stewart, Mayor Cassetti, and members of the Board of Aldermen. I'd like to take this opportunity to see if I can highlight some of our teachers and some of the accomplishments of our students. First, you probably read on the Valley Indy, Shannon Allison, first grade teacher from Meade. She was selected as an extraordinary educator by Curriculum Associates. She'll be heading to Boston with 20 other teachers. I know there were over 1,000 applicants for this selection, and she was selected one of 28. We are very, very proud of Miss Allison. I'm also very proud that we had a unified sports game between Ansonia and Oxford, where our special needs students and some of their other peers played basketball on the 13th of March. It was a great game. It showed great display of sportsmanship and camaraderie. And after we treated both teams to a little pizza party. It was great to see both teams out there playing. Our football banquet was on the 18th of March, where not only did we highlight our football team, but Coach Brockett did an excellent job of also highlighting our cheerleaders for their major accomplishment as well. I believe Ansonia Public Schools was very fortunate. We were highlighted twice last month by Channel 3 on kids doing great things. One, to highlight our BROS program. BROS is the Brotherhood of Scholarship in Excellence. It's a mentoring program from students of Southern Connecticut, help mentor young men of color, and also was students that were spotlighted by Channel 3 were our delegation of students that went to South Korea to attend the largest STEM expo in Asia. So it was great to see our students and staff being highlighted. I also have to say a big thank you to BOAT for allowing me to speak last night. I appreciate their time and their attentiveness. I do want to let the aldermen know that I have been working very hard to advocate for whatever kind of additional funding we could get on our end. We've been working together as Alliance School District superintendents, writing letters, advocating, testifying, writing testimony. anything from additional resources fiscally for education when it comes to curriculum or it comes to maintenance of our buildings. So it's been a very difficult process because we don't know much. And one thing that I could share that is frustrating, we have an excellent patient care technician program where our students go to Griffin Hospital, and we had funding that was coming from the workplace to pay for our students to attend. For whatever reason, that money that was being provided for young people to start enter the workforce, that funding has dried up. We have since found other funding sources through Griffin and some of their donors, and we appreciate all the work that Griffin can do, but we're realizing there are funding sources that are not as liquid as we would like them to be. And I can also let you know on a positive note, next week our students will be on spring recess and school will be out. And if you do have any questions, I am here to answer them at this time.
Questions for Dr. Joe from the Aldermen?
I have kind of just a quick one. Dr. Joe, Tony, just do we have any renderings of like the new middle school layout just yet?
I can provide. We have pretty much just a shot. We have some renderings. I can give you that. There's nothing specific. There's no elevations. It just shows a big box. But because we have not gone to architectural and design, but I can provide that. If it's not on our website, I'll send what we have from the architects at this juncture for approval.
Yeah, all right, I'll hold off then. Sheila usually has like pretty pictures and stuff like that. So
yeah,
when you get some pretty pictures, we'll take them.
I wanted pretty pictures too, but they wanted a lot of money for those pretty pictures. And until we move forward, we're not going to have as many pretty pictures.
Got it. Thanks, Doctor.
Absolutely, Tony.
Other questions or comments from the Aldermen? All right. Thank you as well for coming again this month. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so ends the public official session. We'll move on to financial reports, starting with the Finance Committee.
I'll make a motion to pay all bills if deemed correct. Josh?
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. Next, the boat recommendations that were in the municipal report for April.
Motion to accept those, Josh.
Second.
Motion to accept by Mamone, second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. And finally, the request for refunds in the amount of $949.07, if found to be correct.
Motion as noted.
Second.
Motion by Mamone, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously again. Finally, we have the staff monthly reports. I do want to comment that I very much appreciate them, and this was probably the most robust month for submissions. So we appreciate the reports from all the department heads that were in the pack. I'd just like to get a blanket acceptance of all these.
I'll make a motion to accept and place them on file.
Second.
Motion by Yauman, second by Mamone to put them on file. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. Accidents and claims, we have 30325 on all of them, and then it's 1073, 1074, and 1075. What's your pleasure?
Motion to refer to council.
Second.
Motion by Yauman, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
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 You opposed? If so, you can handle them yourself. All right, motion carries.
Josh, did you do requests for refunds or I'm sorry?
Yep,
Okay,
ma'am.
sorry.
We did.
Apologize.
All right, so that moves on to Corporation Council. We have one appointment in the mayor's letter dated April 2nd. This is the annual Fair Housing Officer appointment, reappointment of Anna Rodriguez. Republican of Pulaski Highway with an expiration of April 1st, 2027.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Cassett. Second by, who was the seconder on that?
Me, Mamone.
Second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Congrats. Thank you. We have no communications. We have no resignations this month, no resolutions, no ordinances, and a ton of new business. All right, we'll move on to that. Number one, new business. Is someone from finance here on this one or no? Yes.
Kurt, maybe?
I'm here. Sorry.
So we have the sewer stabilization fund, open account and establish credits. And there was a letter in your packet on that and number two as well, the release of escrow.
Is that Kim?
Yeah, if Kim's here, she'd be best to speak on that. If not, I can.
Yes. Kurt, I don't see her. I don't know.
So I do know that Kurt has communicated to us that the aldermen simply need a vote to actually establish this line, which is the sewer stabilization fund discussed at length with concurrent with the sale of the sewer treatment plant. So this is a line for this that will house the sewer stabilization fund that is used each year to help mitigate the rate. So to keep that rate down for our ratepayers. And this, of course, was a key tool in making sure that the city had some ability to offer relief as needed to its ratepayers after the sale. What it did this year was keep rates on average exactly the same as they were last year. And this rate, of course, has the ability to operate for several years, 7 years, but could also plausibly add funds to either extend the stabilization fund or to add more in any 1 year if there's a change that's challenging in any particular 1 year. So this is simply a matter of accounting, though. This is simply opening the accounts so that we could start putting the fund there and establishing what those credits will be each year. Those
Sir, can I
credits
ask a
go
question?
to the ratepayers.
Sir, is this a cash account or is this just a general ledger account?
Cash account. Sorry.
Okay. I'll make a motion to open that account.
Okay, we have a motion to open by Mamone.
Second.
Just a point of discussion.
Yep. Who's the second or not?
Levinsky?
Oh, Levinsky. I'm sorry. Yeah, discussion, Yaman.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Tony, if we needed to not only open the account, but also establish the credits, because it sounds like we needed to do that. So I didn't know if you wanted to amend to do both in the same motion.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to include that. Thanks, Joe.
No problem.
Okay, so we have a motion to open the account and establish credits for the sewer stabilization fund. A motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Second item was the release of escrow funds. There was a letter in this in your packet as well. I don't know who wants to handle.
So this was again related to the sale of the sewer treatment plant. After the sale, $100,000 money due to the city was being held in escrow as the city worked to resolve an issue regarding a damaged piece of infrastructure. That's been resolved. So now the funds are being released from escrow and transferred to the city. So I believe that the finance is looking simply for an acceptance here of those funds. And I would defer to Kurt in terms of anything more that we would have to do in terms of getting those funds over to our side. But that was actually a part of the overall sale agreement.
Yep, no, Jed, that's correct.
Okay,
So we're getting money, we're not giving money.
Correct.
so seeking a motion to release the escrow funds back to the city.
I'll make that motion as well, Josh.
Thank you. Motion by Mamone.
Second.
Anybody? Second by Cassetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Next item, Munch Eatery encroachment issue. Is Don Smith still here?
Yeah, so Don Smith is here to explain a little bit But essentially, we have an issue that was raised by Munch Eatery. They're looking to expand an area. And what's going on is it looks like that what they discovered is that a part of their property is actually encroaching into an easement that has been recorded in the city's favor in connection to a culvert since 1978. So what they're looking for is simply permission for that encroachment. And Don, I believe, is going to explain his analysis in terms of whether or not this encroachment has any impact at all on the actual culverts that the easement is in place for. So normally, of course, we don't want things interfering with the easement because, hey, we don't want things near the culvert, but this is a very small amount of the parcel that we're talking about. You actually have a map in your packet that shows the encroachment area. So if you turn to it, just to set it up for Don, you can turn to that map. That's the last page, and I can hold it up here, but you can't see it for some reason. But if you turn to your page, it's in the online
Page
packet, so
173.
yep, the public can follow along. You see that little red triangle? I believe that is the actual area, the little corner of the encroachment, and it doesn't seem to be too large at all. But Don, what's your opinion in terms of the encroachment and the impact on the culvert area?
So, for the record, Donald Smith Jr., professional engineer with an office 56 Greenwood Circle in Seymour, representing the Esposito family and Munch Eatery. They are present here tonight as well. I think, as most of you are aware, Munch has experienced tremendous growth, and due to their great products, their great offerings, they've had tremendous growth. And they came to me and inquired about putting on a two-story addition out the back of the current building. The building is 56 feet wide, and they wanted to put on an addition that's 18 feet deep. The problem, as John had indicated, is the property is encumbered with an easement from the Army Corps of Engineers when the Beaver Brook culvert was put in, or Beaver Brook was put into a culvert that went through the property, went through the flood containment dike, and then into the Naugatuck River. That easement is 100 feet wide, so it's a significant width of the property. You can see in the attachment, the box culvert is up on the left hand, the upper left area. You can see the culvert word is there. There's a round circle that's obstructing it a little bit, but you can see where the culvert is. The request, and this is a request, we haven't done anything yet. There's a request to allow a minor encroachment of up to about 10.5 feet into the easement so that they could build a square, basically a square addition at the back of the building rather than having to abide by the easement line. If we acknowledge the easement line, the addition would be the green. The encroachment into the easement is the red triangle. It's about 14 feet on the right side, 17 feet on the top, and about 10.5 feet at the widest part from the easement line to that peak of the triangle. Reviewed it with city engineer. He didn't quite understand why the easement was so wide. I'm not sure I do either, but that Beaver Brook culvert is a fairly substantial culvert, and it was down pretty deep. And I think when they were putting it in initially, they wanted that width so they could have adequate side slopes to get in there and access the property, and maybe even some of the dike construction. In my opinion, I don't think this would have this encroachment would have any effect on the easement. We're not aware of any other pipes or lines or utility lines within that easement. So it's basically a simple request to allow the encroachment into the easement for the purpose of a two-story addition.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
It's the mayor. Hey, that culvert comes from the dike that's behind St. Sebastian, right? It comes down that way and goes across the road into the property to the river. Now,
Correct.
are there any manholes or chambers access in that area? Because if there isn't, it's 11 feet deep or deeper, and I don't think there's a problem.
No, there's no manholes, there's no utilities, there's nothing in the area that we're proposing, or requesting the encroachment.
Right.
That's the reason why we're asking is there's nothing there. The actual box culvert is some 30 feet away from the proposed encroachment.
Okay.
So
And
I
the work that you're doing, it's flat work, right? It's a sidewalk or concrete?
no, they want to put a 2-story addition on the back of the building.
Okay.
So
But
it would be a, below grade, footing below grade and 2-story addition to the building above.
So it's not going to be built over the culvert, correct?
No.
Right, that's right. Then there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, I thought it was going to be built over a culvert because I want to
No.
make sure the depth of it is, deep enough. If that
No,
was the case, but
we're
it's
just-
nowhere near it. Okay.
We're just on the edge of the easement and,
Yeah.
looking to be able to put on a bigger addition.
Yeah.
Do you have, Don, do you have the dimensions of what would be this red triangle here?
Yeah, that's what I said. If, the right-hand side, the vertical piece on the right-hand side is about 14 feet.
Okay.
The top leg is 17 feet. And from the apex of that triangle square down to the green line is about 10.5 feet. So
Okay.
it's-
John or Don, I guess the only other question I would have is that it's our easement. Do we need anything from the Army Corps of Engineers, or is this something that we can simply decide ourselves?
It's something you should be able to decide yourselves, given the easement is in your favor. Obviously, if it was going to impact the culvert directly, that would be a different story, but this is, as explained, is a very wide easement, and this encroachment is nowhere near the culvert. It's
Okay.
always possible to reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers if the board would like to get an opinion. However, you do have an issue where this is, I want to put it up for a second, so I know members of the public are here too. It's in the
Yeah, I
back,
mean,
but you may
I'm a
see.
lot more assured after some of the mayor's questions that this is surface level, this is not going deep, that sort of thing. I was just thinking, that question was in my head before those questions were asked, but I think that settles me a little bit more.
This is
Yeah, so I just brought that up. But here is the culvert over here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 14 feet wide and 8 feet high. And then, the addition, here is the edge of the easement line. And there's approximately 40 feet from that easement line to the culvert. And we're looking to come in here about 10.5 feet. Just little less than 10.5 feet. And just again, this triangular shape is the only encroachment. The easement obviously allows surface construction, so parking lot and those things that are currently exist in the easement are fine. The problem is just the question with the building, and would really like to put on a, rectangular addition rather than one with the corner clip.
You don't want to, you want to build a cockeyed expansion in the back?
Coming from the construction industry, I don't see this a problem. I think that easement is way too wide from the beginning, but I mean, you're talking about that little triangle, it's still 40 feet away.
Yeah, I don't see.
I don't think it's going to affect anything.
That's not gonna.
Can I make a motion to grant the easement to Munch Eatery?
So we would be looking actually for permission to encroach upon the easement. We're not extending an easement,
Right.
but it's
Okay.
permission to encroach upon it.
Two questions before
right.
you make that before you make that motion, Tony. First,
Sure.
has this gone to P and Z and been approved and everything is good and this is the last leg of it, or is it going after this?
No,
And
this
two-
is this is the first leg of it. There was, no sense going to P and Z seeking approval for the addition.
Okay. And then-
If the easement was not going to be approved, then, we would go to P and Z with the cockeyed building, but
Right,
with
right.
approval to encroach, we'll go with the square building. And if P and Z doesn't approve, then there's no harm, no foul. The encroachment, the permission that was granted is not needed anymore.
Okay. And then the second question is that I know it's an easement, but I'm trying to remember, would this need any sort of 824 approval, John?
It's technically an improvement on city property, sort of, right? Although we're not doing it. So certainly it's something we could wrap up with planning and zoning, I'm thinking, if.
Well, I'm just wondering if, in addition to Tony's motion to give approval, if we make a referral for an 824 with our recommendation that it be approved.
Yep, I was gonna do that simply through staff, but this board could also say, hey, not only are we all okay with this, but we also want you to do the 824. I mean, the complication could be this may need to come back in its final form to dot the i's, but planning and zoning is gonna have to weigh in on here on several ways, and an 824 report might as well be one of them, just to cover all bases.
Okay. John, can you give me the language that you had before? So I have it right, please.
Yeah, the Board of Aldermen grants permission to Munch to encroach on the easement as specified, and you can mention this map, in the map submitted to the Board of Aldermen. And then for the town clerk, I would mark this map basically as the exhibit to this vote. That way that anyone looking at what happened will know exactly what map we're talking about. Trying to hold this map up, but for some reason my video cuts it out. Probably because of this very realistic City Hall background.
And then, John, just a quick question. So even with the easement, they pay tax obviously on the full portion of the building, including that corner?
Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna, that would be assessed as their property.
Okay. Trish, do you have that motion? Because everything John just said, I'll make that motion. With pending the favorable recommendation on the 824.
Second.
Yes, I have it.
Motion by Mamone, second by Rivers. Any other comments or concerns on this?
Yes, through you, Josh. Don Smith, I'm sure you did a thorough job here. Munch has always been a great addition to the city. Right on our ward, Joe Giannetti and I, we're very proud to have that as a working business there. And if we can help them improve their situation, I am all for helping Munch get this.
Just vote yes, Joe.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. I don't know about you guys. I never learned more about culverts in my life, but I appreciate the education. So
Put a lot in, put a lot in.
Thanks, Mayor.
Good job,
Yeah, good luck,
Don.
Don.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good
You the
luck.
same.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
John, good night.
Thank you for hanging around.
Not a
Next item
problem.
under new business, consideration and acceptance of City Road portion of Granite Terrace. This was also in your packet. There was a bunch of old P and Z documents and whatnot. I don't know who wants to handle this.
Yeah, let me jump in. So there's been an ongoing issue involving the Granite Terrace area and a dispute amongst property owners. It came to light that the city had previous designs of accepting what was a paper road, a portion of Granite Terrace that was considered a paper road as a full city road. This, if the city were to move forward with what it started considering back in 2008, this could potentially resolve a good portion of the dispute and also give the city some control on what's happening for the protection of the residents in the area. However, although the city was interested in doing this back in 2008, it did not. It did not actually follow through. So in order to revisit the issue properly, What I'm recommending is we get a updated 824 report on it, on this city street being accepted. I've looked back in the records and there was a request to planning and zoning back at that time, but that's been so long ago. Conditions have changed, purposes have changed. And so the city staff would give planning and zoning the current situation as to why this would be strategically beneficial. And then the pros and cons could be discussed. A report could be generated, favorable or unfavorable, and given back to this board. So I'm essentially just asking for this to be referred for the 824 referral, taking in a portion of Granite Terrace, the paper road portion as a full city road pursuant to the previous submission back in 2008.
Can I just ask in conjunction with this, does this have to do with Castle Lane?
Does.
Going back?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Is this a right of way right now?
It is a paper road, so it's basically, it's not owned by the city. It's recognized on the maps, but it's not recognized as an official road by the city of Ansonia. So basically, right now, you have this idea that it's common use.
What do the neighbors have to say?
Neighbors all are represented by council and believe that this could be a step to achieving a solution to the Castle Lane issue, which is essentially a developer looking to develop right and property owners looking to make sure that they're protected. So I think we'll discuss this in more detail, but later. But I think the first step would be to even see if what planning and zoning would recommend, given a review of the advisability of taking that property taking that road as a full city road.
So this would accommodate full-blown emergency vehicles up and down, back and forth.
Well, if a development is going to be put in there, I think that's one of the big interests. I think you're right. That we would be able to ensure that that was the case, because obviously what you're saying is 100% necessary. Any development further back is going to have to be accessible. And right now, this paper road here, I think I'd love to hear what our emergency services, fire as well, could chip in and tell us about the accessibility of that road.
Doesn't planning and zoning weigh in on all those things? If there's future
Consideration, but I think
development?
when it turns to emergency services, they also like
Yeah.
to reach out to fire and get an understanding as to,
I was just gonna say that, I'll make the motion for the 824 referral, but I would also like notification to go to the fire, police department and
EMS.
arms for, road access and to be able to weigh in on size and whatnot about whether or not this should be a positive or a negative 824.
Thanks, Joe.
Second.
Motion by Yaman, second by Rivers. All in favor of sending it for
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Move on to the next item. Our last item in new business. Actually, we discussed this already. Schedule and location for citywide budget referendum. So John outlaid the proposed schedule, the proposed location being the Armory for all of them. And is there any further discussion on that? Will you publish that proposed schedule, or does it need to be, or
I'd
is
like
it just?
to have your vote on that. Do you agree with adopting that schedule? That would be April 21st, the Monday for the public hearing and the meeting. And then the 25th, the Friday for the referendum. And then basically that replicates as needed every other week. And if that's okay, now we can move forward with actually putting that schedule out in a public way. I don't want to create a schedule that this board isn't on board with.
A motion to adopt that.
Second.
Yeah.
Who was the seconder on that?
Me.
Motion, second by Rivers. Okay. Was there
Just
other comments?
Just discussion really quickly.
Yeah.
Is that I'm just wondering, and because there's still a lot of there's still a lot sort of contingent on the registrars weighing in as to certain things. So I just want to make sure that we're flexible in terms of that schedule, because I hear what you're saying about wanting to get it done and then going every 2 weeks. Seems reasonable to me. But in terms of ballots being printed with a vote on a Monday night, ballots being printed for then going on Friday. I know tentatively we're good, but if it needs to be week over week, if it needs to be like a Monday to a Monday, I just want to make sure that we have some flexibility. You know what I'm saying, John?
So the reason, and I should have explained it before, the reason we've adopted this this approach is because it follows the charter requirement of the referendum occurring 5 days, no more than 5 days after the budget vote. So any other permutation is going to come up short of what the charter requires, that we have the meeting and then 5 days later we have the referendum. So we're trying to work with, you know, what the charter requires and what could be feasible. So the registrars have okayed the layout as something that works, but again, the absentee ballot turnaround, would it be made easier by doing it, you know, a Monday to the next Monday? Absolutely. But then we would not be following the requirement in the charter to do it 5 days after the vote. So it's supposed to be a referendum no more than 5 days after the Board of Aldermen's vote.
John, it's
Gotcha.
Beth. Can I
Okay.
just ask a question?
Sure.
Now you said the 21st for the public hearing?
A public hearing and then the meeting right after it, like we would normally do.
Okay, so the public hearing notice that has to be published, I have to have the line items for all the budget. Will they all be set the week before? Because I'll have to get that into the paper probably by the 15th, 16th.
So we're gonna have, we're gonna have to have some version of this. Remember, the version that's out there isn't necessarily always going to be, would never always be the final version
Right,
adopted
it's
anyway.
proposed, yeah.
But I would guess wherever we are at that point in time, once we need to put it out to the paper, let's put it out.
Okay,
And we'll do that with any other, you know, if it's needed to go another week for the referendum, we'll do the same thing there. We're just gonna have to take whatever we have at the time and put it out, because it would be otherwise, you know, we're just not going to be able to get it out. But I think we're okay, because we have that week in between every time to deal
Okay.
with the notice for the hearing. So that's going to give us, I think, plenty of time to get the notice out for the public hearing each week.
but we do have to do a legal, publish it every time. There's a.
I mean, I believe we should do it every time, because it is a
Okay.
public hearing every time.
Right,
So, I mean, we could pre-publish, you know, and we could look at the charter, I think, and it's possible we could pre-publish the date of all of the
Right.
hearings.
right,
Maybe we could be creative and say, you know, the budget will be updated
right.
online and give the link. That way, every time, if it does fail, we could update it online. People can go and see it. So we'll sit down and kind of see what we can do. As long as we're following the charter, I'm sure we can, you know, get creative.
Okay. As far as the absentees, we were agreeable to do it, but it would have to be in person only because there's no time to mail ballots. and get
Yep,
'em.
I believe John Federn had mentioned that to me. So I think that's certainly better than not offering
Right,
the absentees.
okay, thank you.
I'm worried about the turnaround time for printing.
Right.
How
Mhm.
that's gonna work. So I wouldn't imagine we can get them back on the Tuesday.
Right. Okay,
Thank
Oh.
you.
thank you.
Get more information as we go along.
All right, I have no idea where we're at right now. Do we have a motion in a second, I think, on that one?
We do.
We do. Any other comments or questions?
Nuh-uh.
All right, all in favor of that plan?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries on that. So that'll be our plan going forward. Next up, old business. I don't have anything listed, but is there any other old business?
Motion to go to executive session.
Second. Oh.
Motion to go to executive session by Rivers, second by Tar. All right, we have, just before we do that, we have 6 items plus the add-ons. We have 7 total items. John, who do we need for these?
So I'm going to invite anybody from Blight Land Use in. I'm going to invite Mr. Miller here in, if he's with us. I'm going to invite Sheila O'Malley in as usual. However, I'm going to make a point of saying that she is not invited in for item number 5, which will likely handle last, and so she could excuse herself from the session before we start talking about item number 5.
What
See you tomorrow, Trish.
are we gonna talk about her behind her back?
As usual.
Sounds like it, Joe. Sounds like it.
And Josh, you're gonna call my cell phone.
Yes, I will contact you.
Okay.
We're
Now,
back. We're coming back.
Motion to come out of executive session.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, just give me 1 second. Get my agenda. We had a total of 7 items in executive session. Is Trish here, by the way?
I am
She
here.
is.
Okay. We had 7 items in executive session. I'll take them in order on the agenda. Number 1, there were 3 subsections under land use blight liens. 1A, 73 Myrtle Avenue.
Motion to proceed as discussed.
Second.
Motion to proceed as discussed by Yaman, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. 1B was 116A Jewett Street.
Motion to proceed as discussed.
Second.
Motion to proceed as discussed. Same 2. Yaman, Mamone, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Third one was 1C, 32 Crescent Street. What's your
Motion,
pleasure?
motion to take no action.
Second.
Motion to take no action. Same 2. Yaman, Mamone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Second item, contract negotiations, waste disposal agreement. I'd like to proceed.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign all docs necessary to fulfill the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Yaman, sorry, is second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Our motion carries unanimously. Third one, lease negotiation, Fitzpatrick Car Dealership in the East Main Street parking lot.
Motion to authorize the mayor, or motion to approve and motion to authorize the mayor to sign all documents necessary to fulfill the contract.
Second.
Motion by Yaman, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Stop a minute.
Yep.
That was Yaman and Rivers?
Yep.
Yes, Trish.
Okay, I'm just trying to type the motions out. Go ahead.
Number 4, potential property acquisition / litigation 6978 to 78 Pulaski Highway.
I'll make a motion to proceed as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion to proceed as discussed. Yaman with the motion, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Number 5, contract negotiation, regional agreement with Shelton Economic Development Corporation for economic development.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize council to draft an agreement with the Shelton Development Corporation for economic development proposed.
Second.
Motion by Yaman, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Number 6, pending litigation, citywide fields bid.
I'd like to make a motion to schedule a special Board of Aldermen meeting for April 10th, 2025 at 5:30 via Zoom to discuss and review the bids and any potential addendums.
Second.
Motion by Yaman, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. And the last one, number 7, was added on at the beginning of the agenda. Johnny Brown versus City of Ansonia. Would you like to proceed?
I'd like to make a motion to settle the matter as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Motion to settle as discussed by Yaman, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously again and hit it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
No.
Motion to adjourn by Rivers and second by Tar. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Guys.
Have a good night.
Everybody. Good night.